Dear reader, I hope you are well and that you are reading good books. Currently, I'm getting through my last few reads of 2024 as I write this in the first part of January, and I'm struggling to get through the Analects by Confucius, which seems to be the bane of my existence. I don't know what it is about these old time philosophical books about a certain way of living, but they are extremely dry. And Confucius came off as a judgmental guy who lived an extremely specific life that a lot of people looked up to, and I suppose a lot of people aspired to, but that seemed like it was hard to actually attain from how I read it. Some of it seemed like common sense, like it was supposed to be very outdated by modern standards. The messaging doesn't resonate with how people act these days. They speak a lot of treating your elders with respect and doing the rites, which seems nebulous to me now, a sort of ceremony that takes place at a time and place that is long in history now. We talk about in history books, but which modern people couldn't reasonably nor feasibly attain at all. Even the rights that are presented within the books were shifting, and he tried to do it as cheaply as possible, living a frugal life. He was not a rich man by any stretch of means, I suppose. Would he even be able to afford to do any sort of rights as they are presented today? Who knows? That's not the point of this video. Point of this video is that I fell down the YouTube rabbit hole that started in January because January turnover content started up. You know the ones I'm talking about. Better ways to better you content, which is whatever reason, including planning content, which includes bullet journals and reading journal setup. And I thought, this is cozy and mindless and quaint, and I love it. Gobbled it up with a mental fortitude. And then it wasn't my enough for my dumb little brain to consume the content. I was empowered, which is either a very good thing or a very bad thing. But I thought, hey, I'm not a dumb. I could make a reading journal for myself. I wondered how that could affect the way I consume reading content. But oh boy, it's definitely changed the way I consume content, which is already in December, which, though I'm not sure the long-term effects of this. First thing I did that I don't hit that I did, which I usually don't do, is hit reading slumps anymore because I'm keeping track of the books at any given point, and I have a physical book in front of me to show where I'm at. So currently, at any given point, I'm reading 4 to 5 books, usually one audiobook, one book that I'm actively focused on, one book that I've started that day, and one book that is harder that's been sitting around in the background that I'm dithering on. In this case, it's the Analects, which I started in November, which I'm only sitting at about 50%. I probably should make progress on it in January because I don't see myself finishing the Analects in December, but oh well. But audiobooks. I can get through an audiobook and I don't listen to it at normal speed anymore, which is weird for me. I didn't even listen to audiobooks before, and now I'm listening to them at 1.5 or 2.0 speed, which is which I thought was too fast, or I didn't even think that I could listen to it like that, but now I feel like it's fine and can keep up. I will clean my house or work on my writing while listening to it or just draw. And it's just nice to have something on in the background while I listen to. I binge listened the other day to Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez and on the Libby app the other day, and it was nothing short of magical in the least. That's another thing too. I've taken my debit card off the Amazon store. I've made a video about that. And I tried a trial I I got rid of my trial subscription of Kindle Unlimited and Audio Plus. I canceled them both because I found it more encouraging because it was encouraging me to buy books. And I just don't want to buy anything from Amazon anymore well, because of the strikes, but just because I don't want to support Jeff Bezos anymore. I find that I get more enjoyment out of the Libby app, even if I have to wait for certain books. And maybe it's worth it to invest in Kindle Unlimited, but I'll see by the end of the free trial. I noticed that I can switch from one book to another as a mood rigger more seamlessly now, right? Because of the journaling that I'm doing, and I spend a lot of time on things that I'm motivated to read. Mostly it's because I reading takes all of my time and energy right now, and I think it's just because I'm on holiday, and I'm not really focused on anything else. But I am about to start classes, so we'll see how much energy I have after working on my thesis. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I'm boycotting Amazon in 2025 and using an easier way of getting my books that don't involve spending money, which usually involves going to my library, which is a fair way of getting books, I think. If I do, which is what I'm planning, on the off chance have to buy a book, I will go to Barnes and Noble, I think, which Still not the greatest, but because it's not a local bookstore, but it's still better than Amazon in my opinion. I'd rather give my money to an actual bookseller. I don't like how Barnes and Noble is becoming more of a toy and a hobby store rather than a bookstore, and that irks me in so many ways, but I'd rather just need to invest in more poetry and other books and maybe just show interest in certain books and I'm willing to spend money on certain things. Maybe if I just start haunting whole sections of Barnes and Noble holding up cash screaming, "Take my money!" wildly like Philip J. Fry, that should work, right? I mean, that's how capitalism works, doesn't it? Anyway, here are the other books I'm reading right now. House in the Cerulean Sea, the audiobook am I listening right now. My sister has been home, so I haven't been able to focus on it as much, but I've been enjoying this one immensely and I want to focus on it. Last Sword, the second book in the Red Queen series. I'm a little fuzzy on the details of the first book where I left off, but I'm not going to reread it. I'm going to move forward. I'm just started it today and about 15% through the book. It's a fast-paced read so far, but I think I ended on chapter 4 out of 29 chapters. It's a pretty quick read. I barely started reading this book called Recursion. I think I read one chapter, which was good, but I was having a hard time getting into it because it was depressing. Spoiler alert, a woman kills herself, and I was like, this is a little rough to start a book like that personally. Plus, the Analects, that's the fourth book I'm reading right now. Technically, it's a little slowing down because it's the end of the year. I'm trying to decide what the last book of the year will be and what the first book of 2025 will be. I don't know why it's so important, but those are for some reason. Anyway, think about starting to do a reading journal if you don't have one currently and see what it does for your reading. It doesn't need to be complicated or anything. Let me show you. It doesn't need to be complicated. Just see, it just has a list of books that I read for 2024. And then it just has my started date and then finished date. And then I just write a review on it with how many stars it was. And that's basically what it is. See, I just write little blurbs about the book with little stars and just talk about the book. And I journal about it. It doesn't need to be complicated or anything. Like some people make theirs, and you don't need to be an artist or log your books. I found that I was more honest about my book ratings when I didn't feel the pressure of having a public profile out there, and I wasn't pandering to writers or having people judge me on my tastes, that I could have my own private opinions and that they could just be for me. So think about it. It's healthy to keep some things on offline just for you. I mean, there were some books that I just didn't want to share because I didn't want to have my opinions out there. So I was like comfortable sharing those ones. But um, there's a lot that I don't want to share because it's private. If you liked this, consider subscribing. It's not necessary, but I think if you've gotten this far in my video, I think you're pretty cool, and I appreciate you being here. I hope you read some good books this week, ate some good food, and stayed warm wherever you are. Hopefully, you aren't getting weathered on by the elements, whether rain, sleet, or snow. Have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye. Love, Ari.